Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Fine.
Awesome.
Very fine. Part of our job requirement is thinking on our feet. Can I just quickly ask, actually, I know you're going to start, so just cut me off. Do you do it late so your UK audiences can have dinner, you know, and settle down for the evening? Yeah. 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 Mm. I understand. Yeah. Sure. Sure. Good for you, David.
Awesome.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
around 100 actually. So hopefully we'll get some more in a second.
Cool.
Fine. We stayed up this late.
I've got a super cool question. If we don't start yet, are we going to be able to see that interview as well with the others, or would we then need to switch over to the streaming link? Use the other link. Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. I'd just obviously love to watch it.
Great. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely running. You're definitely running. It might just not be showing the correct amount on your screen. I can't see it either, but sometimes it plays up, doesn't it? So.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Save the Rhino Film Club. It's great to be with you all. It's been a while. We haven't had a streamed event since World Rhino Day in September, and we heard you guys. You said, please give us some more events. So this one is the first of a series through the winter. Hopefully we'll have a couple of events every month up until March at least. And tonight we have the joy of bringing you Baxu and Rhino as part of our film club. We won't be watching the film here because it's on Netflix, but what we do have is everyone who is behind the scenes of the film to give you their script on how things came to be. So we started our virtual events back in March, and that aligned with our Rhino COVID-19 appeal, and that appeal currently is at £23,000, and in June £5,200 of that went to Save the Rhino Trust in Namibia. And Namibia is where we will be tonight for Baxu and the Rhino. So we have a pre-record with the cast, and we also have a live Q&A with Andrew and Florian, the director and producer of Baxu and the Rhino. And I'd like to introduce you to Andrew and Florian. Hi guys, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. Great.
Lovely to see you all. We don't see you, but it's lovely to be here.
Yeah, we're doing some magic with Zoom. So you guys are the directors and producers of Baxu and the Rhino, and the Giants, pardon me. So can you give everyone at home, starting with Andrew, a little bit of backgrounds, what your role is in the film and how it all came to be?
Thank you so much, David, and good evening to everybody. I'm Andrew Botelle. I'm the producer of Baxu and the Giants, a Namibian short fiction film. We were very lucky that our natural resources in Namibia are highly respected, and one of the institutions protecting our natural resources and our wide open spaces is the Legal Assistance Center of Namibia. Now, they represent the marginalized and poorest and least, the disenfranchised members of the community, but they also represent nature in the broadest sense. So they wanted to make a film to raise awareness of our nature-based economy, and particularly to look at the impacts and causes, just tell a story around wildlife crime in Namibia. So they gave us a little bit of money to make that film, and they thought we were going to probably make a documentary. Cut a long story short, I was very busy with other productions, and as a producer, my role is really just to hire the team, organize the money, get the legalities in place. And when you film with rhinos, they're highly sensitive assets, highly sensitive animals, highly sensitive issue in Namibia and globally. So it takes all kinds of legalities to be able to film with them, to go out there. So really my job was to take this brief from the Legal Assistance Center to raise awareness for young kids and sensitize teenagers about wildlife crime. And then I was too busy to really do the directing and the writing. So I asked my good colleagues, Girley Jazama, who you'll see in the pre-recorded interview, and Florian Schott is with us tonight, the director, to basically take over the reins. My job is managing the project. After we organized the legalities and the contracts and the finances and the accesses, was really to hand over to the whiz kids, which is Florian and Girley and the rest of the team who you'll meet and hear about, and let them do their magic. So my job was then making sure they had everything they need to be able to film what they want, do what they want, get the editing, visual effects, music. So I was really standing off, and I let the Florian and Girley and the rest of the brilliant heads of department do their magic. And maybe this is a good time for Florian to say what he did.
Yes, hi, my name is Florian Schott. I am a filmmaker, and I'm a German-born, but living in Namibia for the last 11 years. And so as the film community here in Namibia is quite small, obviously you are in close contact with a lot of the other filmmakers. And so obviously I've been knowing Andy for years and Girley for years, and I got approached by the two of them in late 2018 if I wouldn't be interested in collaborating with them on a film that sensitizes children and teenagers about the issue of rhino poaching. And what we sort of like found out in that sort of the three of us really in our first meetings was the direction that we wanted to take with the film, and really to not go into sort of like a PSA or documentary, but really tell a short emotional story that children can connect to. And so we came up with a concept, and then Girley and I went off and we wrote it, and really quite with the help of a lot of really brilliant creative people in front of and behind the camera, we made this whole film.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm really happy that came to me. It's wonderful, and I'm looking forward to watching it again. So you've answered a few of the questions, or hinted at them, and that I'm going to present. So how did the film come about, and why did you choose? Can you elaborate a little bit on the government department input and the objectives?
Yeah. Well, as I said, it was the Legal Assistance Centre gave us a core piece of funding which gave us the confidence and ability to say, heck, let's do what we want to do too. And that really then changed the project from perhaps a documentary, because, you know, you've seen wildlife crime. It's very brutal, and it's actually very difficult for a lot of us to watch. So we decided to change tack, and perhaps then the best way of telling a story is through the eyes which are a little bit more innocent. So once we realized, okay, and that was again, Florian, Girley, and myself decided, okay, let's go for a fiction film, a short fiction film. We presented this to the powers that be. They signed it off. And then we have to jump through lots of hoops with the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, it's known in Namibia, who represent the natural resources and protect them. And they're very suspicious of any outsiders coming in and documenting on film, particularly because the poaching has been so radically horrendous. Since 2013, it was just awful up until around 2018. And we couldn't kind of get a handle on it. So it was just a moratorium, you know, a cancelling of filming. You can't show the locations, you can't show people, you can't show, you know, there's just too much at stake, understandably. So we, fortunately as a producer in Namibia, I'm British born, but I'm 30 years here. You build up great relationships. I'm sure in your trade and industry too, you know, you build up trust relations, and those are perhaps the most important things you have. Money allows you access, but trust gives you more access and quicker access. So we have a track record of being responsible and answerable when we make films. So we were actually given complete go-ahead on proviso that the Ministry of Environment and Forestry would watch the film before it's released and just check it's fine. And they had a few questions, and we explained ourselves. And I think when you watch the film, you know, we have turned something, an issue, into a life and a story which is based on true life. So really the thing progressed from a brief, from an awareness, advocacy kind of project into a very creative, collaborative. And once we had the ministries signing off too, we had the funding and the access, then it was all the rest of us getting involved. The Save the Rhino Trust in Namibia, the Integrated Rural Development and Nature Conservation, these are NGOs who are very on the ground, and they're actually involved in the policing and monitoring and managing of rhinos. So, and then the communities got involved, and then the thing just snowballed, and we actually tripled, quadrupled the funding to, you know, we were really on a shoestring and we worked for nothing. None of us got paid until a year later. And that's how we sometimes have to work, and it is a labor of love, but, you know, if you believe in something, we do it. And really it was by the end of the project, you know, you wouldn't believe how many people locally and internationally were directly involved in this film. And I think, you know, perhaps it's the story comes first. The subject matter is so global. It's so international. We do care. You know, I'm sure in your business you see it, but, you know, at least half the world cares, you know, and I don't mean to be cynical, but really there's a huge movement towards caring for each other and the environment and less privileged species, organisms, and people in our society. So, you know, I think we're this crossroads, and I think that this film portrays that vulnerability, but also the strength, and we have to support these industries. And I think that's how the film came to fruition, was just this recognition that this story could take the message further. I don't know if you have something to add, Florian.
No, I think you said it quite well. I mean, just maybe to add on the sort of like, I mean, the inception of the whole thing was obviously when I got approached by Girley and Andy if I wouldn't be interested in collaborating. Obviously, I've been sort of like doing a lot of my own research as well, and sort of like and searched myself for sort of like what is my connection to this issue. And obviously, I sort of like knew about obviously the issue of poaching as you sort of like, when you're in Namibia, you read about it in the newspapers, you hear about it. It's obviously something that's sort of like prevalent there. But at the same time also, I sort of knew that there was a lot that I actually did not know about it. And for me, I think the one thing that I really felt strongly about is sort of like, I really wanted to see an inside view. I wanted to sort of like, I really was interested in going into a village where sort of like, where the syndicates approach potential poachers, and how does the kind of recruitment work, and how to sort of like, because I think it's so oftentimes so easy to sort of like vilify and make a black and white issue, and sort of like make it, okay, it's the bad poachers and the good guys that try to help, but sort of like not to explain the sort of that, like the social situation, the economic situation on the ground. And so I really wanted to explore this a little bit more, and obviously the story that Girley and Andy and I came up with was sort of perfect for that.
Yeah, so the one thing that's really unique about this film is the point of view is from a young person's point of view, and that's quite refreshing and not something we see in this sphere very often. And thankfully, we have a pre-recorded interview that we'll show you in a few minutes with Girley, with Wafeeq and Camilla, the cast and the writers. And it's a great little piece, and it really gives you a young person's view of this, and that's great. The last thing for you, Andy and Florian, before we move on to the pre-record, is that this film was originally on YouTube, and that's possible for everyone to watch, but you are now have the privilege of being on Netflix, and for everyone who doesn't know about that process, how did that happen, and is that significant for this film?
Yeah, I think for us when we started the project, it was really for us very important that I think the aim was always to go two different directions. First off, and obviously this was the aim of the Legal Assistance Center as well, to really show it in all corners of Namibia, obviously there where people would be most vulnerable to be possibly recruited by syndicates or get into poaching. And so to really show it in all corners of Namibia in schools. But the second thing that we always felt like we really wanted to bring this film and the message out into the world, because I think it doesn't only speak to the issue of rhino poaching in Southern Africa, but it also speaks about a certain respect for nature and environmentalism. And I think it's something that the message is just important all around the world. So for us, it was really sort of like, how do we get to the widest possible audiences? So we submitted the film to a lot of film festivals. We've been traveling to quite a number of festivals in the time that one could still travel in the second half of last year and the beginning of this year. But then really when we sort of ended our festival run, and especially also with at the beginning of worldwide lockdowns, we decided, okay, for us, it's really important to get the message out there. It's not about sort of like how can we make a lot of money with it or something, but it's really about how do we get the most possible, the biggest possible audience for this film. And so we put it online, and we just wanted to show it, and it did quite well at the beginning, but obviously at some point the numbers were sort of like a little bit stalling, and it's sort of like we got this sort of like over the first hype, and obviously when the Netflix offer came, it was obviously a really great offer to just reach audiences that would not know us or would not find us on YouTube. So it was obviously quite a bit of a big decision to say like, okay, shall we take it down from YouTube and sort of like from the free channels? But then we decided, okay, it's like we have this exclusive Netflix contract for now, but obviously at some point this will lapse again as well, and we hope to now open the film to like markets that we couldn't have reached by ourselves, to really get a lot of eyeballs to this film and a lot of attention to this film. But when this run is done, we do want to share it again with the world.
Just to add to that, David, and audiences, is like really we didn't know which method, as a small country with a small film industry, and not a big impact when you release your next film, we tried everything. So we wanted to get it on TV networks, which was just about to happen, but then the Netflix came. We produced DVDs, which were distributing for free for schools and NGOs and institutions and clinics and stuff like that. The YouTube was really just to make it available for people who might either bump into us or part of the organizations we work with. And also because of accessibility. I don't know if you know, Namibia is a very big country, very empty country. So to get the film out, we had mobile cinemas, which the Legal Assistance Center was also taking the film around to more remote places. The project ourselves, we raised money to send the film and ourselves back to the communities where we filmed, because we feel we have a debt. The communities we're filming in were paramount, not just for the production, but this is the places where the rhinos live a lot. So we tried every approach, and the Netflix is just the latest one, which is a global audience. And as we all know, it's hard to turn down Netflix, particularly because they only wanted exclusive rights in Africa. It's non-exclusive, so it is available to be seen outside of Africa, and it is only for 12 months. So we felt it was actually perfect timing in lockdown, where people, really can't go anywhere and watch it any other way, that it was, again, perfect timing that they stepped in, and it'll be available again in August next year. So I think it's really, I couldn't have dreamt it as a producer, the distribution plan, to work this way, because we haven't prevented any other audiences from watching it, and we've just grown the audience, and we can still pursue new audiences based on the feedback we get from who's watching and who loves it. For example, we're hearing more and more that in Brazil they love hearing African stories, so maybe anyway, the point is I think the film will continue after Netflix.
Yeah, thank you for those insights. It's really great to hear this. We will now head over and watch the pre-recorded interview with Girley, with Wafeeq and Camilla. And following that, if anyone at home, please go to Netflix, watch the film, and then come back here at 8:15 in the UK time to ask Andrew and Florian any questions that you have. So enjoy this interview. Unfortunately, these guys couldn't be with us because of school and other commitments, and we hope you enjoy it. Camilla, Wafeeq, and Girley, it's nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. How are you all?
Thanks. Very well, so we'll be on, but then we'll see each other again.
No, you're very welcome, and I really appreciate you finding some time to do this pre-record with us. I know you guys have school and other responsibilities, and also for everyone at home in Namibia, these guys are adhering to the protocol that we live within. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll just mute
Tonight we are showing everyone
I don't know
Baxu the Rhino. Baxu the Giants. So can you guys start by telling everyone at home who you are and what your role is in the production of the film?
Well, my name is Girley Charlene Jazama. I am the co-writer, co-producer, and I was also the production manager for the Wafeeq production.
I am Wafeeq Narimab. My role is Kata, and I am in the film. I'm a public brother.
I am Girley Charlene Daries, and I'm on leading actress in Botelle.
Cool. That's great. Thank you for summing that up. And the film has been out now for several months. And you guys have done quite a lot of these. So how's that all gone?
Well, I think the reception we received thus far was really beautiful. Because we released the film, or it started streaming on Netflix on the 30th of September, and it was trending for quite a while. So the reception that we have in terms of like even the feedback from people on Twitter has been really, really beautiful. Like even the author of Binti, Neddy, she also tweeted and basically recommended and encouraged people to basically watch the film as well. Yeah. And even in Namibia, we did mobile screenings. We did screenings at schools. We obviously also had it at the cinema in Windhoek at Grove Mall. So it's had a really great reception. And I think it served the aim that we had from the beginning when we did the film, was basically to sensitize teenagers about rhino poaching within Namibia. And I think that's how we've achieved that. Yeah. I don't know what they would like to say from their perspective, because it's obviously their age group. Yeah.
Of course. Go ahead.
The film was quite accepted very well by my age group, to see how they started to, listen and do research about poaching in Namibia, and how they recepted with the message of the film, and the film itself was quite, great and amazing. To see teenagers take initiative when it comes to our country and our wildlife was very dope and cool to see.
Cool. So everybody at home who's watching this, they are passionate about Namibia. They are passionate particularly about Namibian rhinos. So can you tell us just why that's so important to you guys? Why did you guys want to tell this particular story you mentioned to the young people of Namibia, but exactly why?
Well, initially Willem Odendaal from the Legal Assistance Center, he basically approached Andrew Botelle from Mamakoba Video and Research for him to make a movie about rhino poaching. And the initial brief was they have a comic about rhino poaching. So it was basically going to be like a public service announcement type of documentary type of film. So then Andrew asked me, would I be interested in being a part of it? And then obviously Andrew and I approached Florian and asked him if he would be interested in being a part of it. And the whole aim was that, but obviously because poaching in Namibia, a lot of poaching has been taking place. And also we have the last free roaming rhinos within Namibia. And the aim is for us to preserve those. So basically the brief was for us to create a film that sensitizes teenagers in rural Namibia about rhino poaching, because usually what happens is people, outsiders, come to these villages. And then obviously, and also the one thing you need to realize is not actually the people from the village that do the poaching. So basically somebody from the outside will come and just ask them like, hey, where is the rhino? And that's basically also the context of the film, because he didn't actually do the poaching kata in the film. He basically just showed the poachers where the rhinos are. So that was basically the aim of the film overall. And obviously also to look at the one thing that we obviously set out to do, Florian and myself, when we wrote the film, it was, we wanted to showcase, why is it that people actually poach? Do you understand what I mean? So it's not a black and white situation, but actually people actually poach because of poverty, because of their life situations, because of their circumstances. So we don't just want to vilify and say, oh, this person is a poacher, but actually also looking at why do people do it.
Yeah, I think that's very useful to talk about the complexities that are involved. So you mentioned about the local communities and the people who live near rhinos, and I'm just curious as to know if you guys have had the opportunities to see rhinos. I know Namibia is vast, and there's relatively a low population, and the rhinos live in very remote, difficult to get to places. Have you guys had those opportunities?
Well, I personally have had it because when we were busy writing the script, Florian and myself, with the assistance of Save the Rhino Trust in Namibia, we were basically taken on a rhino tracking experience. Basically just for us to experience, okay, cool, because obviously the aim was for us to ensure that the story is authentically true to what happens on the ground. So we were taken on a rhino tracking experience. So I've seen a rhino in real life, and I'm sure, have you guys seen rhinos?
I unfortunately have not, but I do plan on it quite soon.
So do I.
Yeah, because I think that's something that is kind of hard for us to understand in the rest of the world, because we have the media and the TV, and we have the wildlife documentaries that make it look like wildlife is everywhere, rhinos are everywhere, you see them all day, every day. But actual fact that's not the case, and you guys as natives of Namibia and one of the largest populations of rhinos have yet to see them. So I hope you get to see them one day, and it should be a good experience.
I'll speak to Andrew and Florian because we clearly have to change this. The fact that they've not seen rhinos, I know, and they ain't a movie about rhino poaching. So yeah, at some point we should take them out to go see a live rhino. Actually,
I think so. We've looked at the passions and why. So what I'd like to ask you guys, maybe Camilla and Wafeeq, are what are the key takeaway points to watching this film? What are you actually saying, and what do you want everyone at home to do as a result?
Well, what I like to say is like poaching rhinos, like it's been happening from 2013 till now, and Papuana Giants is like an example of showing young children that rhino poaching is illegal, and it still is, and how like future generations, we want to show our futures people generations that rhinos are big animals that I showed in Namibia, and we can't just tell the people the name rhino without showing them the actual rhino. So like a message is like, if you really want to see a rhino, just see, but do not poach, because like animals are just like us humans. They have feelings, they have legs, they have eyes. They just have basically everything that we have. The only things that are different is that they walk on four legs, or that we don't understand them. We do understand, but not quietly. So the message is just like, rhinos are just like us. They feel sad when we are doing this to them, or they are doing this to them. They are just like.
So basically the key message she has is like, do not poach rhinos.
For me, the takeaway is that as people, we need to understand that when people take advantage of vulnerable kids and people in poor situations to poach rhinos, we shouldn't be so quick to point the finger at the poor people in the dysfortunate communities. However, find the real culprits who are exploiting these people for their own benefit for their rhinos. Namibia has one of the largest population of black rhinos, and majority of us have not even seen the rhinos, because to Save the Rhino Trust is working so hard to in a way hide these rhinos from their poachers. Because if it's easy for us to find rhinos, it's easy for the poachers to find rhinos. And these poachers exploit our people and our animals for their own use. And what makes Namibia so great in itself is not us, but our animals and our ecosystem. This is what makes Namibia, and this is what makes Africa as a whole so beautiful and magnificent.
Yeah, there's definitely, I can hear a lot of pride in those answers. And I wanted to ask you maybe how does it make you feel that that these steps have been taken and such good work has been done so far, that rhinos are relatively safe and thriving in Namibia, and that is very much a national objective that you've achieved. How does that make you feel?
Are you asking me or them or anybody?
Everybody, anybody.
Okay, well, from my perspective, I think I'm very proud of the fact that, I don't know, also, I'm sure you know, that we have one of the most really, our conservation in terms of our wildlife in Namibia and Africa is really, really good, because also it involves the Save the Rhino Trust, involves the communities. So from my perspective, I really applaud and give kudos to Save the Rhino Trust for the efforts that they've been putting in place. And even the rhino rangers, you know what I mean? Those are like, they are unsung heroes. Like, nobody sees them. Those guys go out in the field and they stay there for 20 days. You know what I mean? Like, just to protect our rhinos. And honestly, from my perspective, it's like, I'm really, really proud to say that we have the last free roaming black rhinos in Namibia. And honestly, I don't think this would have been possible without the efforts of, say, the Rhino Trust, the Ministry of Rhino and Tourism, and obviously also the communities and the various conservancies. So, because I mean, if we don't want to find ourselves in a situation whereby, if we're looking at the perspective of dinosaurs, where we basically just telling kids that like dinosaurs existed, because that's basically the case that would happen with rhinos, because eventually they're going to become extinct. Like, I mean, I know in some parts of Africa, they've died out, they've been killed out. So here we're trying to preserve what we have, because it's also a national treasure. Because if we don't do that, tourists come to Namibia, like Wafeeq said earlier. They come to Namibia to come and see our wildlife, our landscapes, our cultural heritage. So honestly, for us, we have to preserve those in order for us, because obviously also tourism contributes to our country's GDP, and also the communities benefit from this. So it's like, say, the Rhino Trust, the conservancies, the communities. So that's really, I would say, kudos to Save the Rhino Trust, and I'm proud to say that I was a part of, in my small way, of trying to send out that message. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we're coming quickly to the end of this little segment. And I just wanted to ask you guys, as everyone is watching at home, what would you like them to think about as they are watching the film? What state of mind should they enter into this film with?
Well, I would say have an open mind. Don't be quick to judge. And I think also the most beautiful thing is, like, when you do watch the movie, you'll appreciate our cultures, our language, the beautiful landscapes that we have, our wildlife, our people. Yeah, so have an open mind and don't be too quick to judge. And I think also at the end of the day, the takeaway message will be like, let's be the generation that ends rhino poaching. You know what I mean? If we don't do that, it starts with us. And also the one thing that I would say, in order to help us also preserve rhino poaching, everybody should have a rhino tracking experience. So if you do come to Namibia, please do contact the Save the Rhino Trust or to go on a rhino tracking experience, because not only is it for the conservation of our rhinos, but at the same time also the communities that are protecting these rhinos are benefiting from it.
Well, for me, just for people to come in with an open mind, a sympathetic heart towards the people, especially towards the rhinos and the people in the rural areas. And the takeaway that I want people to have from this film is to understand the root of the problem of why our rhinos are being poached, why our rhinos have been being poaching for such a long time, and how they can help us to save our rhinos and save our people. because it's essentially we are nothing without our people and our rhinos and our wildlife animals.
Camilla?
What I like to say is, well, this film is about rhino poaching, and people should understand that rhinos are part of our life, our community. Like people from overseas come and poach our rhinos to sell it to overseas and get rich of their countries. And Namibia is the only, can I say the only country or one
Yeah.
of the countries that also have rhinos, and the other countries that don't have rhinos, like they can't even poach, so they come to our Namibia to poach our rhinos. So have an open mind, have an open heart. Don't be shy to do, like even if it's shorter than this film, just try a commercial or something to help the people to understand that rhino poaching is illegal.
Oh, that's wonderful, guys. Thank you very much for taking some time to tell everyone at home who's watching this about why you've got involved and for speaking so passionately about rhino conservation. And we really appreciate you that you've done that for us. And good luck with everything and the film. I hope. You can continue to spread the good work. And thank you.
Yeah. And I would also like to urge any of the viewers that are joining us tonight to tell their friends, to go watch Baxu and the Giants on Netflix. Let's keep it trending. Let's keep it. Go watch it. The more views we have, the better. Because basically we made the movie so that we can get the message across the world.
Yeah, that's right. So now everyone can go ahead and watch the film on Netflix, and we'll see you guys at the other side with Andrew, a quick Q&A with Andrew and Florian. And take some time, share the link to the film, and tell as many people who've got Netflix to watch it. And thank you. Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope that you enjoyed watching Baxu and the Giants. I watched along, and it's great to see it again for only the second time, but I'll be sure to watch it again. And thankfully, we have Andrew and Florian with us. You met them earlier, the director and producer of the film. And welcome back, Andrew and Florian. And we have some questions from the audience. And anyone else who's got some questions, please fire away. So we got our first question from Georgia Hall in USA. And she says, just let me work my screen so I can read what you're saying. There are many incredible films about conservation. How will the narrative and the storytelling of this film make people stand up and listen and make change? Either of you two.
Where and on the ground where the poaching takes place.
Can I just add also, I think, my personal opinion as a filmmaker, as a storyteller is films are brilliant at introducing people to new things, new places, new ideas, new languages, new issues. So this was, I don't think, a solution. I don't think film's a solution. It's just a way of raising awareness, bringing us into a world, getting a glimpse of that window out of that house to get that view. And I think the feedback we've had is, and hopefully people are emotionally moved and they can perhaps see that it is based on fact. The story is based on how people live in Namibia and perhaps in other parts of Africa and rural communities that live with rhinos. So I don't think it's going to change much until we turn those perceptions and those feelings into decisions which impact the life of rhinos. For example, perhaps come to Namibia, I would suggest, and go on a rhino tracking experience with NGOs which work with rhinos, and it will just be a most wonderful experience, and it keeps, as they say, the rhinos on the planet. So I think that these films can just bring you into this world, and if you obviously fall in love with it, and pursue it, and then do something active for conservation, for the people who live with wild animals.
Yeah, perhaps that's a question right there. Anyone give us a high five or a nudge if you've been lucky enough to go on a rhino tracking experience, if you're very lucky. And of course, go see rhinos when you're allowed to. Don't go breaking any go with the protocol. That's taboo. The next question we have is towards you, Florian. You mentioned that you learned a lot about rhino poaching while creating the film. What was the biggest thing you learned?
I think really the one thing that was really the takeaway from talking a lot to not only the people from the Save the Rhino Trust, and obviously a lot of people that are involved in conservation, but also talking to a lot of people in the villages on the ground is what I really learned was, I think, that I didn't know before, was sort of like the circumstances that brought these people to start poaching. Obviously, you see it in the film, in the character of the brother, because we really wanted to bring a human face, and also someone that we got to know and empathized with, and have a character that is actually that is well-meaning, but doesn't have the means to, or doesn't see another way out than to go into this life of business, basically. And so really sort of talking with people on the ground, that was really and talking about the circumstances that led people to get into poaching was really sort of like the biggest, for me, the biggest revolution.
I think that Bahu has a very nice way of looking at things when she says we have everything we need, but on the other side we see Kata and the relationship with his mother, the provider in the family, being asked for more, and then there is the we all face it in modern society, the desire to have more. So I thought that was very nice to show, and we can apply that to all of our lives and our consumer habits.
Absolutely. I mean, it was important for us to really show Baxu, who's really sort of like grounded, and you can see they don't have much, but also you can see, like, for her, at least in her life, she doesn't need more than that, and she's sort of like happy with that. And obviously that was sort of like one of the things that we did want to highlight, in terms of that obviously it's these situations are tough, and it's obviously we can't end rhino poaching if we don't tackle the economic situations of people in rural areas in Southern Africa. But of course we did want to sort of like see the difference between how the two of them saw sort of like the way that they lived, and Kata obviously having the real urge to sort of like try to improve their life and try to make things better.
And we have another question, and perhaps for you, Andrew, you mentioned this in our setup. The question comes from Olaf von Lauen in Germany, and he asks, or she, probably, I think it's a he, Florian?
Yeah, Olaf sounds like a he, definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Olaf. The question is, what is the impact on the tourism-based income due to COVID-19, and how does that affect protecting the vulnerable species like rhinos?
Olaf, thank you. Great question. And perchance, I've just finished another film, more of a kind of documentary promo. And I was there in August with my team during COVID. Initially in March, it was a complete, from 100%, 110%, we have an exponential growth in tourism in Namibia, but to zero, even internally, we had a complete lockdown. So things were catastrophic for tourism, and that affects people's lives because of incomes. And that affects revenues with the NGOs, and we have these things called conservancies in Namibia, which are communities set up it's an open access area, but they protect the wildlife and trees and animals which live in those areas. So all of a sudden, what had become a kind of community policing, of course with the support of the Namibian police and other security forces, but the real impact was there was no tourism, so there were less people visiting where rhinos live, and tourists do, by being there, protect rhinos. Then there was less income, or a complete lack of income for the communities. I mean, they couldn't pay their staff to go on these monitorings and patrols and take out tourists and just check everything's fine. So it was a really difficult time. And then fortunately there has been a few corporates and government initiatives, and we've seen them across the world, to come in and support communities and support the NGOs and support the policing and stuff like that. So there was a couple of incidents of poaching, and it has been reported, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was a few years ago. And people have, because of the support they've got from private companies, from governments and other NGOs, probably like the Save the Rhino International, has been trying to help on the ground with the communities just to keep things ticking over. Things have actually worked out okay. So there hasn't been a big spike in poaching. The communities are being supported. The tourists will return. And, it's a bit unfortunate that there isn't a global pattern. We're all affected differently at different times and different intensities. But if you came to Namibia now, you can go on you're allowed to go to campsites, you're allowed to travel around Namibia. So our COVID situation is not as severe as perhaps in Europe or other parts of the world. So it's tough, it's really tough, but people have made a plan, they're pushing through, and it will return. And if you have the right corona, permits, your tests, you can come to Namibia today.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, everyone. If you have the means, it's possible. I just wanted to give a shout out to Charlotte on Twitch. She's saying that she has a talk with her kids, perhaps she's a teacher, about rhinos in the next few days, and so that's great. Thank you, Charlotte. Perhaps watch the film as well, with the kids.
Yeah.
We have another question to anyone, and referring back to the interview with Girley, Camilla, and Wafeeq, in the communities that you filmed in, what were their feelings about rhinos and rhino protection? And that's from Tim Goslin.
Actually, we did the big part of the film. We shot a little bit outside. We shot like in a village that's very close to, or sort of like in look and feel in terms of the population, very close to the villages that are actually in the part of northwest Namibia where there's a big black rhino population, and with that obviously also poaching issue. We shot the village scenes quite a bit outside of that. So we found a village that's very similar in its sort of like geography and the way that it's set up, but necessarily in the people that lived in the village they've been super supportive of the film. All of the smaller roles in the films, from the old man in the car, the kids that play with Baxu, the poachers, the bad guys, the police officers, that's all actually people that we recruited there from the village, and they've been super helpful with us sort of like painting the houses and stuff, but they actually, the people that we were working with there in the village haven't actually been affected by rhino poaching, as this is in a little bit of a different part of the country. It's like 300 km away.
Yeah, I suppose we can comment a little bit on Namibia is a vast country, the capital Windhoek, to get to where Save the Rhino Trust operates is perhaps 6, maybe 8 hours drive, maybe more.
Yeah, it's quite a bit, and we shot when we did the scenes, especially these dream sequences in these vast landscapes and fields, and the opening of the film, and the scene, the poaching scene itself, that we shot actually in the area very close to also where the Save the Rhino Trust operates, and from all the people that we've been in contact with in our research tours and stuff, we got so much support and so much. People really wanted to share their stories, and I think people really felt that it's time that their stories are being heard, because it is a big problem. So from all of our conversations, I don't remember one negative conversation or comment about it. It was really, we got loads and loads of support from the Save the Rhino Trust, from the villages surrounding the areas where a lot of the black rhinos are. So yeah, we got a lot of support.
The next question from Derek Timmins in the UK. The question is, did you speak to the rangers when you filmed? And how do they themselves protect the rhinos?
Just very quickly, and then I think Florian will be better because he worked on the film with the game rangers and the families. But from the very beginning, we realized that there were some key partners we must involve in the film. And obviously the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, Save the Rhino Trust, Integrated Rural Development Nature Conservation. So from the beginning, Save the Rhino Trust supported us 100%. They were amazing. They were absolutely fantastic. And I think, Florian, you want to tell them what a great service and honor they did us?
Yeah, I mean, we did a few tours before we made the film, and we really had in-depth conversations and long conversations with the people from the Save the Rhino Trust. And we did involve them every step of the way, because we really, I mean, for us it was paramount that we get the details right. And that it's not just sort of like our fantasy from these people coming from the city and coming to the villages and sort of like making their own film, but they have been in all steps of the way, from the writing to shooting the film. They've been really supportive. Actually, you can see at the end of the film there's a car from the Save the Rhino Trust, and there's this guy that steps out sort of like to talk to the brother. That's actually Simpson, the CEO of the Save the Rhino Trust in Namibia. So it's like he was there. He came down to when we were filming, and we got loads and loads of support.
Yeah, I did see that. I saw the truck and Simpson. Hopefully one day I will get to meet Simpson, but we've met him many times virtually and digitally. So that was a great thing to see. Here's an interesting one. I'm not sure who from, but what's next for you both? Any more rhino films?
I'm not sure how much we can say at this stage, but actually we just had a very long meeting. Girley, our sort of like, the three of us are sort of like obviously the partners in crime in terms of like making this film work, and we just had a long conversation today and a sort of brainstorming sessions on how to continue this conversation, because definitely we saw the impact that this film had, and so we definitely want to continue in this line. So obviously we all have our other projects as well that we're working on, and we all sort of like have other things, but this is definitely something that is, I think we all noticed it's something that touched all of us deeply, and so we definitely want to continue with that. We can't exactly say yet how it's going to continue, because I mean, it's like, obviously it's a long way ahead, but we definitely want to continue in that vein. So you'll definitely see and hear more about it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a space for what happened next.
We think so as well. Yeah, we have some ideas.
I have a question myself for you, Andrew. You mentioned as a producer, you work on everything from the crews to the finances to the locations. But one of the things that inspired us to have this film club was an email from you to say you can listen to the soundtrack. I'm a big music fan, and I really love the soundtrack here. Can you tell us a bit about that, the artists, and particularly the genre of music?
Well, the three brilliant musicians behind that are Lisa Ellers, Carl Ellers, and Ims Nicolau. And they work together. That's a mother, son, and good friend in between trio, which have been working together a few years in Namibia. They were approached to develop a soundtrack, a soundscape, to bring life and body and emotion to the film. And they were pretty much given a carte blanche because they're Namibian and because they're musicians, and musicians have a feel, and they kept talking about colors to me. I'm sure Florian would have had his experiences working as a director with them, but when I was with them in the sessions where they were developing the soundscape, firstly, they fell in love with the character. Of course, they weren't on set, but they'd watched the rough cuts in the movie, and they fell in love with this beautiful little, tiny little girl with such a loud roar, you know. So they fell in love with the story, with the way it was told, the semi-fantasy, but they were very rooted in that Kwekwe Gobab is the language, the ICAD, you know, that the Click language, the indigenous language, and they speak that. So between them, amongst them, at least some of them. So they had a very strong feeling for it, a very strong vision, a very clear idea. And of course, we don't want to go with this kind of very rooted film into something a little urban too much, or, you know, has to have the look and the feel, and as they said, the color of the film. So that's what they created, as far as I'm concerned. And actually, above and beyond the soundtrack, they're so motivated and so in love with the story that they said, look, we've written another song. So just before the Netflix release, in time, it was again another one of those lovely fortuitous events where we shot a music video. We had this thing all lined up, ready to go. They performed a whole new song, which is in a similar vein, in a similar genre, which is Namibian desert type music. But it's a little more upbeat, and I would invite you also to share that link with your audiences and have a listen yourself, because the soundtrack, but there's also a bonus track with a video. Florian,
yeah.
From adding.
Yes, you can actually, if you check out on YouTube, Baxu and the Giants, it's on our channel. There's you can find the whole soundtrack to the film and the music video to Salati Maha, to the song as well. For me, it was really, in terms of the soundtrack, the reason why I was really keen to work with these three is because the year before I actually worked with all three of them on a theater play, which was very rooted in Oshibambo culture. And what they did a really interesting approach, and sort of like not thinking about it from a film perspective, but really doing research on sort of like what's the kind of instrumentation that people have been using for a long time, and really going into the culture. And obviously, it was sort of like they actually started composing before we actually shot anything of the film, because I really said, like, we need sort of like a kind of something that gives us a feel for it. And that song that you hear in the sort of like the first morning when we see Baxu getting ready, there's actually a piece that they composed without having seen anything of the film, and really sort of like, and we sort of like took the soundtrack from there. That was really sort of like so rooted in this culture, and sort of expanded it to create the right move forward.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we're slowly running out of time. It's been great, and we only have a couple more questions, at least one. And the question, someone has obviously watched the interview with Camilla, and has asked, when will it be possible for Camilla and Wafeeq to go on that rhino trekking experience?
Yeah, we definitely have to make a plan. I was watching that now as well, and in seeing that both of our stars have not seen a rhino in real life, it's definitely something that we need to tackle as soon as possible. So yeah, we have to be discussing that, and we have to definitely tackle that. That's something that we have to change for sure.
I mean, it's probably a good thing to say that even if you go on the experience, there's not necessarily guaranteed that you will spot the rhinos. Yeah, the desert adapted black rhino is very elusive, and
yeah, you have to get up very early, and you have to sort of like I mean, the rhino that you see in the finished film, that is in the film is being poached, is actually, I think we needed on that day. It's I think we took like 5 or 6 hours of walking until we actually found it. So you need a lot of patience. You need to get up early, but it's and you might need a second try for it. But if you get the chance, it's for sure worth it, because it's incredible. I mean, it's something that's really quite awe-inspiring. If you see a a black rhino in its sort of like in its natural habitat. It's fantastic.
Well, if we have to finish, that's great. But just to say, I mean, I think it's a really brilliant. It's a strange thing because the filming was so separate from the rhino scenes. If you understand, you can't take a gun and actors legally into those environments and film them with real rhinos. You understand, it was a separate reality. So you film with the actors and then you film the rhinos in a separate thing. So, and then fuse the two together with visual effects. So, but one thing we have been very lucky, we have been with Camilla and her family and Wafeeq, 2 festivals, and we have been together and traveled with them to try and expose them to the realities of what the film, the context of the film. So, but I think you hit the nail on the head. We must take them for a long, long weekend up there and go for a camping trip.
But it does highlight the reality, like I mentioned in the interview, that this perception, this BBC David Attenborough wildlife film perception that, you know, everything is right there and outside your front door is not the reality, and that's actually true of all the rhino range straits in Africa, India, Java, Sumatra. That's you have to be very lucky and very privileged to see the rhinos.
Yes,
sure.
Thank you, David, and thank you, audience.
Yeah, but everyone at home, they love it. They say thank you. There's lots of great comments. They would like to see a sequel, and they've asked for more film clubs. So let's hope one day there's a sequel and there's a sequel film club. So thank you, Andrew and Florian, for sharing the film. Thank you for joining us and telling us about it. And we really appreciate all the work you're doing to highlight the cause of rhinos.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and thank you to everyone that listened to us and that was part of it and that's interested in and watched the film. So if you liked it, please tell your friends, tell your family to watch it, and yeah, I hope that we'll be back here with whatever we're doing next.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Catherine, and your team at Save the Rhino International in London, and to all of you beautiful people out there. And we will do our best for Baxu too. That's a promise. We'll do our best.
So thank you everyone at home for joining us. We really appreciate you staying in and watching the film club instead of Great British Spec Off. It's been great to host these film clubs. And like we said at the start, do look out for more virtual events. We will be doing these for as long as possible, until March at least. And our next big event is the really big Rhino Quiz on 17th of December. So keep an eye out for that. And keep safe, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Go.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, I'll invoice you, man. That's just a beer. It's just a beer when I come to London. Just a beer when I come to London. Okay.
Oh, hi, Emma. We can see
Hello,
you.
my camera's on now.
We can see you now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a little bit out of London, but definitely if you're in town, say so, and we'll organise something, because that was excellent. I'm keen to pick your brains about everything. So
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. She's embedded.
Yeah.
Actually, it might just be in the current situation. It might actually be more wise for you guys to come to Namibia.
That's a good
things
point.
Are a little bit
That's
more,
a really good point.
Because I mean, here, like, you know, like things are open. I mean, you do like you sanitize your hands, you wear a mask inside, but apart from that, there's cafes, there's lodges, there's hotels, there's rhino trekking tours. So why not come down here?
If we can convince Kathy to figure out the flights and the time off, then we'll be there, no doubt.
Well, you're doing your work now, so thank you very much. And I'll forward you that latest film once it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we support MET as well, so be keen to hear what they say. Yeah.
Cool. Well, nice to meet you, eh?
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your evening, day.
Thank you.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Will there be? Will you put this recording or something online somewhere apart from the live stream now? Because then obviously we're going to share it on our channels and stuff then obviously as well. And so obviously for everybody that missed it now live, that we can sort of that we can share it then whenever it's up on your site or YouTube or wherever you put it. That's obviously awesome. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.